So, Pokémon, huh? It's pretty surprising that I haven't talked about this series much on my channel before, especially when you consider the fact that Mon is literally in my channel name. Nowadays, Pokémon is, by no exaggeration, the biggest multimedia franchise of all time, beating out the likes of Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Hello Kitty in merchandise sales and especially in game sales. Hogwarts Legacy might have put up a good fight, but Pokémon was just stronger. Although part of that has to do with the fact that the creator of Pokémon isn't pure evil. For almost 30 years now, this series has been immensely popular with kids across the globe, sparking their imaginations and immersing them in a world of strange creatures to befriend and battle. But I don't need to tell you any of this. You know what Pokémon is. May it be the anime, the games, or even the surprisingly dark manga. Jesus Christ! Everyone has been exposed to this franchise in one way or another, and statistically, most people have gone through a phase where it was their favorite thing ever. Almost every kid at one point in their life has fantasized about being a Pokémon trainer and having their very own monster to train and take care of. And if you don't think Nintendo's gonna capitalize on that, then you're insane. In 1998, kids were given the ability to finally spend quality time with their favorite Pokémon. As long as their favorite was Pikachu. Kids could achieve this with Pokémon Pikachu, also known as Pocket Pikachu in Japan. It was an LCD virtual pet that allowed you to play and take care of your very own Pikachu. Oh, I see, so if Pokémon makes a Tamagotchi knockoff, everything's fine, but if Tamagotchi makes a Pokémon... The toy was actually pretty limited as far as virtual pets were concerned. You didn't have to feed Pikachu or put it to bed, and there were no life stages, so you couldn't evolve it. It was really just a pedometer with a Pikachu inside of it. This was only the first of many products the Pokemon Company made to try and make kids feel like they were taking care of their very own Pikachu. For instance, Pokemon Yellow also came out in '98, which was just red and blue with Pikachu as your starter. Pokemon Yellow is fairly inoffensive for obvious reasons, but there are 3 games in particular that are so universally panned by fans and critics alike that I personally have come to call them the crappy Pikachu game trilogy. In my defense, I have never claimed to be creative or original. My entire channel is just a ripoff of LS Mark. These games barely share anything in common with each other except for 3 things. Basic themes of interacting with or taking care of Pikachu in some way, being widely considered some of the worst games in the franchise, and finally, all of them being developed by the same company, Umbrella. Umbrella is a company that makes Pokemon spin-offs. And pretty much nothing else. And their first game is coincidentally the first one on our list today. And let's be real, it's the one you were expecting. Hey You Pikachu was released for the Nintendo 64 on December 12th, 1998 in Japan, but didn't make it to other countries until the year 2000. And there's a pretty good reason for that. The whole game is played with speech recognition technology, meaning that they had to recalibrate the Japanese speech recognition tech in the game to work for other languages. So let's think about this. Speech recognition technology today is pretty good, but it's still not perfect. So what do you think speech recognition tech was like back in the 90s? The answer? Not good! In the game, you play as an assistant to Professor Oak, who's asked you to help him test his new invention, the Poké-Helper. This device was designed to give humans the ability to talk to Pokémon. I thought humans already had that ability considering we tell them to do stuff all the time in the games, but I guess not. And so you're tasked by Oak to befriend a wild Pikachu and just talk to it. Of course, there is more to it than that. Most of the game has you doing activities with your Pikachu. Fishing, going on picnics, foraging for items, or even just watching TV. I think I smell foreshadowing? Almost all of these activities, you guessed it, require you to give commands to Pikachu through the packed-in microphone peripheral. Keep in mind, this is a cheap pack-in microphone from 1998, which only makes the already not-so-great speech recognition even worse. Not only that, but on occasion, Pikachu will just do the wrong thing, even if he understands you. Like with the quiz minigame, where you have to guess the names of different Pokemon. Since you're not the one directly playing the game and are instead helping Pikachu play the game, sometimes this dumb rat will just press the wrong button. That being said, that's still not as bad as the Pinata minigame, where Pikachu's blindfolded using Ash Ketchum's hat. Wait, where did you get that? And you have to give him directions to find and hit the pinata. This one is pure luck. There's no other way to describe it. It is entirely luck on whether Pikachu will even listen to you here, to the point that it's maddening. This game is an anomaly in how it can go from a chill virtual pet sim to a borderline rage game, all based on how Pikachu is feeling that day. It makes what could easily be a pretty zen, if a bit mind-numbing at times, experience into something I can see them using to torture prisoners of war. At worst, it's grueling, and at best, it's just boring. This was probably some kid's dream game, being able to interact and spend quality time with a real Pokemon, or at the very least, a simulation of one, which honestly just makes it more depressing than anything. Hey You Pikachu was not received well by critics, with the highest rating I could find being from Nintendo Power with a 7 out of 10. I'm sure there wasn't any bias there or anything. Strangely enough, despite the not so great reception of Hey You Pikachu, Umbrella decided that their next game would be a spiritual sequel. Yet another light virtual pet sim starring Pikachu but without all the crappy voice commands. So you can actually control the game normally with, a controller. That sounds really promising, right? In 2003, Umbrella released Pokémon Channel. Like I already said, it's a light virtual pet sim like Hey You Pikachu, but without the microphone. Which sounds like it would be an improvement in basically every way, and it definitely is from a controls perspective. But of course, there's a catch, because the way you take care of Pikachu in this game is by watching TV. The game yet again starts with Oak asking for your help with a new invention. This time, it's a TV network made specifically by Pokemon for Pokemon. Oak, have you been experimenting with recreational uses for Gloom's sleeping powder again?
I stop whenever I feel like it.
After being gifted a TV with the Pokemon-centric programming loaded on it, a wild Pikachu takes an interest in the machine and wanders into your house. Man, if I had a nickel for every time I befriended the wild Pikachu while helping Professor Oak with an experiment, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. From here, the base gameplay loop begins. The gameplay loop being watch TV with Pikachu. At least that's it in a nutshell. There is actually stuff to do here, but most of it is done by interacting with the TV. The TV comes with multiple channels, each one with its own function. On the first day you have a certain set of channels, and then as the game goes on you unlock more. There's the report channel where you report your findings to Oak and save your game, the Pichu Brothers channels which play episodes of the Pichu Brothers anime and is the closest this game has to a main objective, but I'll get to that later. Shop and Squirtle, which acts as a shopping channel to buy stuff for your room, toys for Pikachu, or even collectible trading cards. Then there's the Quiz Wobbuffet channel, which is a trivia game show in which you and a group of CPU opponents try to guess different Pokemon from silhouettes, or, funny enough, Pokemon cries. But not the cries from the games, that would actually be challenging. They're the cries from the anime, where Pokemon literally just scream their names. So most of the time, it literally just gives you the answer. I can't even be mad at that, that's just really funny. Also, if you take too long to answer, then Pikachu will answer for you. And just like in the last game, he's usually completely wrong. There's also Smoosh 'em Shape Up, which is an exercise channel, because Pikachu refuses to go outside anymore, so he's gotta stay in shape somehow, I guess. And then last, and certainly least of the channels you have on the first day, is Pokemon News Flash, a news program hosted by Psyduck and Meowth. Pro tip, if you have to take a bathroom break while playing, don't even bother pausing the game and just turn on Pokemon News Flash instead. It mostly consists of Psyduck spouting off Pokedex facts and wording them as if they're current events, interspersed by procedurally generated interviews conducted by Meowth that feel like Oblivion NPC conversations if they were boring.
I don't know you, and I don't care to know you.
Those are all the channels you have on day 1, and every day you unlock new channels and a new episode of the Pichu Brothers anime. The closest thing this game has to a win state is to watch all 5 episodes of the Pichu Brothers anime. After watching all the episodes, the legendary Pokemon Jirachi appears from its 1,000-year slumber to project all the episodes in the night sky for you, and then he disappears never to be seen again. Is Jirachi stupid? In the European versions of this game, this part makes way more sense as you're actually able to connect your Game Boy Advance to your GameCube and get Jirachi and Ruby and Sapphire through this event. But in the North American versions, you get to watch the cartoon you already watched, but in the sky now! You think there are like remote tribes somewhere that can see this too and are absolutely losing their minds? You might be thinking at this point,
You can beat the whole game in just 5 in-game days. This game must be really short.
and you'd be right. In a way. The main part of the game can be finished in anywhere between 4 to 7 hours depending on your methods and what you want to complete. But there's a catch. When I say 5 days, I don't mean in-game days. I'm talking about real-world days. This game utilizes the GameCube's internal clock for everything, kind of similar to a game like Animal Crossing. So a lot of activities make you wait in real time to accomplish them. You have to wait a real full day to unlock the new channels. You can eventually go to other locations, but you have to wait in real time for the bus to pick you up. But the most insane use of the game's internal clock has to be the examination channel. This channel shares some similarities with the quiz channel, in that it asks you to guess which Pokemon will hatch out of the egg depending on its physical appearance. The thing is, the eggs can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 24 hours to hatch. That being said, this game does have one thing that cuts through all the monotony, and that's the fact that the game is just very charming. Hey You Pikachu had a very similar charm, but it was buried under all the frustration caused by the voice controls. Pokémon Channel is that zen, if a bit mind-numbing experience that I saw under the previous game's jank. The thing is, this is less of a game and more of an interactive screensaver. Something to leave on the screen while doing other things and check up on every now and then. In that sense, it's really not too different from any other virtual pet simulator. And while we're on that subject, the vast majority of this game's charm comes from Pikachu himself. Seeing how Pikachu reacts to the programming is just very endearing. Seeing him do the little exercises with Smoochum, get excited at the Pichu Brothers show, or even hit the TV in anger when a contestant gets an answer wrong in the quiz show. Pokémon Channel is the definition of a mixed bag. If you're looking for an engaging and challenging gaming experience, this is not what you're looking for. Heck, even if you're looking for a cozy game where you take care of a Pikachu, this probably isn't what you're looking for either. The best way I can describe this is a Yule log with an itinerary. You leave it on to have something on, and then you check on it periodically. It's so laid back of an experience with how hands-off it is, to the point that I don't even know if this qualifies as a video game anymore. The final game of the trilogy came out in 2004 in Japan and 2005 everywhere else. Except for South Korea, which didn't get until 2007? Pokémon Dash was the first Pokémon game to come out on the Nintendo DS, and was also the first Pokémon game I ever played. It goes without saying that I spent way more time with Mystery Dungeon and Pokémon Diamond once they came out. This game specifically is constantly brought up by people as the worst Pokémon game ever, which is quite the loaded statement when you consider the kind of shovelware this franchise has pumped out, especially in recent years. Pokémon Dash is a racing game where you race other Pokémon around different courses in Grand Prix tournaments similar to something like Mario Kart. The difference is that unlike other Mario Kart style racers, the whole game is shown from a top-down perspective, and in single-player mode, you can only play as Pikachu. The thing is, this game is mostly notorious for its control scheme. The guys at Umbrella sure do love their wonky and weird control methods, huh? In this game, the way you control Pikachu is by swiping your stylus on the touch screen in the direction you want to go. And this isn't something like Subway Surfers or Sonic Dash where you just make one swipe to change directions. You have to constantly swipe the screen repeatedly to keep a consistent pace with the other racers. Because of this, the game has gained a reputation for destroying people's touchscreens due to just how much you have to swipe to make Pikachu move. The courses you race on are pretty unique conceptually. They really took advantage of the top-down camera by making the environments far more open than your average racing game, even though there are still pretty clear optimal routes that you should stay on if you want to win. Every race has you following an objective marker to Pokeball-shaped checkpoints scattered on a map. Different terrains on the map affect your speed in different ways, so also scattered on the map are power-ups that allow you to move faster on rougher terrain. Then there are the balloons you can pick up that fly you into the sky and allow you to go to checkpoints inaccessible on foot. Something really odd is that when using the balloons, your objective marker disappears, and the only way to see where you're supposed to go is an image of the next checkpoint's location on the top screen, which leads you frantically searching for an area with a location that looks similar to the one in the picture. After choosing a location to land, you gotta be careful, because landing on any terrain aside from flat grass after ditching your balloons will knock you out for a couple seconds. And the only way to recover is, you guessed it, rapidly swiping the touch screen. The game has 5 cups to race in with 5 courses each. The thing is, the courses in each cup don't really vary much between each other. Each cup has a specific theme, and the courses just adhere to that theme to a T. So you're going to be seeing the exact same terrain and the exact same stage hazards over and over again until the cup is finished and you're ready for the next one. In fact, most of the variety in this game is locked behind a pretty major caveat in the form of special courses. These courses aren't connected to a particular cup, but are actually unlocked through having either Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, or the Kanto remakes in the GBA slot of your DS. Every special course is just the in-game sprite of every Pokemon from generations 1 through 3 rebuilt using terrain blocks. In my experience, they're not that great. The courses are focused more on recreating the sprite and less on being actual traversable terrain or a generally enjoyable course at all. It's conceptually cool, considering this means the game technically has over 400 unlockable courses, but in practice, it's really not worth it outside the novelty. It's the textbook definition of quantity over quality. In general, the game is just very simple, bare bones, and honestly kinda cheap. I don't know why they went with a racing game rather than continuing their trend of simulator games. Considering how Nintendogs fared, I'm sure a similar game where you take care of a Pikachu would have been a smash hit. That being said, is Pokémon Dash the worst Pokémon game? No! Pokémon Quest exists. Detective Pikachu Returns exist. They made a pay-to-win Pokémon MOBA. That makes it the worst by default. Pokémon Dash's biggest crime was being one of the first titles to experiment with relatively new technology. Keep in mind that in Japan, this game was a launch title, and launch titles are rarely, if ever, the most fulfilling gaming experiences out there. Honestly, despite these games' quality, I have to respect Umbrella for their willingness to experiment with an IP as massive as Pokemon. They could have easily just made a Pikachu Tamagotchi with 3D graphics and call it a day, but instead they thought, well, what if you could talk to Pikachu? Or what if you could just hang out and watch TV with Pikachu? They could have easily made just a Nintendogs clone with Pikachu, but Nintendogs already exists, so what's the challenge in that? Let's try our hand with a new genre instead. It's so rare to see companies take risks and experiment with big franchises like this. And even though these games didn't turn out too great, I appreciate them regardless. Plus, we did eventually get a straightforward game where you just bond and take care of Pokemon in the mainline games on 3DS no less. Through Pokemon Ami in Gen 6 and Pokemon Refresh in Gen 7, you can feed your Pokemon, pet them, play with them, decorate their room, and yes, even talk to them. As for Umbrella, they eventually found their stride with the Pokemon Rumble games, a series of simplistic Pokemon brawler games with light RPG elements that released fairly consistently from 2009 up until 2019, before Umbrella officially closed their doors on October 2020 after being merged into Creatures Inc. Man, right when I thought this video was gonna have a happy ending. Honestly, I think the real takeaway from all this should be that Digimon's better, suckers! Thanks for watching. If you like this video, leave a like and become a pyromaniac yourself by subscribing. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.